And welcome, Hoosier fans, to this week's edition of Assembly Call Radio. This is episode number 36 of Assembly Call Radio, and it is our 328th episode overall of the Assembly Call, recorded on the evening of Thursday, July 20th, 2017. I am Jared Morris, your host for Assembly Call Radio, where each week we break down the most important IU basketball stories from the past 7 days. Remember that if you can't catch one of our shows live, you can always catch up with our podcast. Just search for Assembly Call wherever you listen to podcasts, and you will find us. All righty. Well, let's begin how we always begin, and that is with our Hoosier Proud banner moment. And I think it's pretty obvious what the banner moment was from this week. It goes back to Monday when we had that flurry of recruiting activity. You know, a lot of people were wondering, okay, Archie's here, things are going well, things, seem to be on the right path, but when are we going to get a commitment, guys? And all of a sudden, within 24 hours, bang, 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 Indiana gets 3 commitments. First, from Race Thompson of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Next, from Jerome Hunter of Pickerington, Ohio. And then finally, from Damezi Anderson of South Bend, Riley. It was a huge, huge flurry from the Hoosiers. 3 4-star commitments. A great sign that the Archie Miller era is off on the right foot, and obviously now we turn our attention to who will the point guard be, what will Romeo do, but getting those 3 commitments, really building the foundation for a solid class in 2018 was just absolutely a huge, huge moment for Indiana and a great sign that things are on the right track. And so that is our Hoosier Proud banner moment, brought to you by our friends at HoosierProud.com. And by the way, we're going to spend a lot of time this evening talking about those 3 youngsters, Race Thompson, Jerome Hunter, and Damezi Anderson, giving you some detailed scouting reports on each of them. That is coming up in this episode. But first, let me introduce my esteemed co-hosts for this evening. To my left, we have an immensely proud husband and over-the-moon happy dad who recently welcomed his second child into this world. Welcome back, Zach McCrite, and congratulations on the new addition to your family.
Thank you very much. It has been a whirlwind of 2 weeks since baby was born, and very, very exhausted, but it's as many fathers and mothers, whoever may be listening, know out there, it is a different kind of exhausted. It is an exciting kind of exhausted. It is a delirious kind of exhausted, and it's fun. So it's fun. Am I to go?
It is McCrite's minute. You go. Here we go.
I have the floor. I don't have much to say that we won't already get into. I mean, I know, whenever we go into these shows, and Jared does a lot of preparation for these shows, just to let those of you out.
He does?
In YouTube and radio land know. The thing that's always on my mind seems to always be the thing that is already on the run sheet for tonight's show. So I will save my schedule rants and things of that nature for that particular topic. I think just one thing, I'm going to leave a lot of the recruiting because I am not a huge recruiting guru. I think when you have a billion things going on, you start to prune your sports watching and sports following tree, and you prune it down a little bit. And I think I pruned the recruiting branch. And I know for a lot of you out there now, sans a guy like Romeo, who's in my backyard, and
like literally, he might be in your backyard right now.
I think I could actually throw the basketball to him and get the assist.
Get him to work on the hedges out back, trim the garden.
No kidding, right? Yeah, I'm going to need a little extra help now with the extra kid. But save for those couple of moments, I think I'll leave that heavy load to the people that know it better. Only I will say is that I think we get our first real glimpse into the kind of positionless basketball that it appears will happen under Archie Miller. I mean, I think if I'm not mistaken, the 3 recruits that were all committed this past week are 6'6", 6'7", 6'8". I know people are going, where's the point guard? And I'm sure that will come, but even so, it looks like it's just grab talent and do what you will. And to me, I was always told if you have 5 guys that are 6'7" and you have them in the lineup and you can switch everything, that's probably better than having guys that range anywhere from 6 foot tall to 7 foot tall. So for me, that's the one thing on the very, very outskirts that I like about this. So I'm in.
Positionless, but hopefully not role-less, because we saw how that worked last year, and it wasn't pretty. All right, to my right, we have a man who is already thinking of the first clever pun that he will use involving Damezi Anderson's name. Something like the release on his jump shot is Damezi on the eyes. You know it's coming. He's a columnist for thebiglead.com, and he is a man who has not slept nor eaten since Monday because he drove all the way to Minneapolis, Minnesota to get tape, and then Pickerington, Ohio to get more tape, and then South Bend, Indiana for even more tape, and then finally back to his beautiful home of San Diego, former home of the Chargers, if you didn't know, to quickly watch said tape and then pull together scouting reports on Indiana's new commit so he would be ready for tonight's show. He is a hero, ladies and gentlemen. He is Ryan Phillips. Ryan, what would you like to rant about tonight?
Look, first of all, I am a hero. I think everybody who listens to the show knows that. But no, I think that certainly it was the big, 24 hours Archie Miller had on Sunday and Monday and reeling in those 3 recruits. I mean, there's just 3. You got 3 top 100 recruits reeled in 24 hours. One of whom is going to be on campus this year at some point. We don't know, but Race Thompson is going to enroll at some point this year, and likely redshirt is the plan. But he wants to be on campus, and I think his eagerness to get on campus is great because, he gets into the college weight program. He gets all the benefits of being on campus, being around the team, and learning the system so that when it does come for his actual, redshirt freshman year and it's time for him to hit the court, he's going to have a jump ahead on all the rest of the 2018 guys, which will be big. I think he's a guy, having watched a little bit, and we'll get into it more later, who could have probably played this year if he needed to, if Indiana needed him. But I think it's a smart idea for him to come in redshirt like that. I think it was just a big couple days. As you said, people were kind of wondering, all right, we like everything this Archie Miller guy's doing, but where are the recruits? And maybe we're starting to see a little bit of a domino effect take place.
Absolutely. All righty. So we have a very busy show for you tonight. We're going to talk recruiting. Obviously, we have scouting reports of all of the new commitments, both from Ryan. I have some thoughts on them. And then our scout from Twitter who connected with us, Adam Crone, also has some thoughts. And so we're going to relay those to you as well. He's seen all these guys play. And then we have mailbag, as we always do, some questions. And we're also going to talk about the double plays, which were announced today, the Big Ten double plays, because there is an element there that absolutely ticks me off, and we're going to talk about that. But first, real quick, a word about this week's sponsor, SeatGeek. As you know, buying tickets to sports and concerts can be complicated, but there is a better, simpler way to buy with SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the smartest, easiest way to get tickets to live events. With SeatGeek's seamless mobile experience, you can buy and sell tickets in just 2 taps. SeatGeek helps you find the best seats at the best prices, fully guaranteed. There's nothing quite like seeing your favorite team or musician in person, and SeatGeek will get you closer to the action for a great value. Like, for instance, if you're an IU fan and you want to watch IU play Purdue in one of the greatest rivalries in college basketball, and you'd like to go to the game in Bloomington and West Lafayette, but oh, wait, the Big Ten didn't schedule Indiana and Purdue twice because it's dumb and they only play once. But if they did, you could go to both games at a great price because of SeatGeek, but because of the Big Ten and their idiotic policy, you can only see Indiana and Purdue play once this year. But when you do, use SeatGeek to find them, because SeatGeek is designed to make your ticket buying experience easier than ever. And best of all, our listeners get $20 off their first SeatGeek purchase. Just download the SeatGeek app and enter the promo code ASSEMBLY today. That's promo code ASSEMBLY, ASSEMBLY, for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. You are listening to the Assembly Call. I am Jared Morris here with Ryan Phillips and Zach McCright, talking about a busy week of Indiana basketball news. And guys, before we get to the recruiting, let's just quickly cover this double play topic. So it was announced today, the double plays for Indiana in Big Ten play: Michigan State, Minnesota, Ohio State, Illinois, and Iowa. First thing that jumps out there, obviously only playing Purdue once. I've spoken my piece on that. Both of you can rant on that if you wish, but let's also just discuss real quick how tough this is. Obviously, these are the teams Indiana plays twice. They play everybody else once. You know, Michigan State, they're obviously going to be one of the 5-10 best teams in the country, so that's tough playing them twice. Minnesota was pretty good last year. Expect to be pretty good again this year. And Ohio State, Illinois, and Iowa are all teams with question marks. Ohio State and Illinois both with new coaches. Iowa having to replace Peter Jock. I think all in all, it's pretty fair, and I would say even favorable for Indiana When you look at a team like Purdue, who their double plays are Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, Rutgers, and Wisconsin, that seems like a much deeper and more difficult set of double plays than what Indiana got. So I like that there's the chance to beat a good team like Michigan State, but you're also not overloaded. With teams like Ohio State and Illinois and Iowa, having some question marks coming in. Ryan, anything jump out to you about this scheduling?
Well, obviously the Purdue thing is kind of jarring. It's interesting because I think it was a couple years ago Indiana didn't play Purdue twice also. It was 3 years ago maybe. That was a kind of a big deal then, and people made a big deal out of it. And it didn't happen again. And I guess if it is truly random, that's going to happen from time to time. But I think Indiana, it worked out pretty favorably for them. As you said, Michigan State, we always seem to get stuck playing Michigan State twice. And they're always a great team, always a tough team. So that's going to be an issue. Playing at the barn, we know we're going to have to play at the barn. We know how we all feel about the barn. But then Illinois, Iowa, Ohio State, I think are pretty favorable matchups. We'll see at Ohio State, and Illinois, they have new head coaches. We'll see how that affects the way they play and how they do this year. But I think that Michigan State and Minnesota are certainly the difficult ones.
Yeah, I'll just say this, and I'll try to be brief. While I always am used to Purdue and Indiana getting together twice, there's a part of me, a very small part of me, and I know I'll be in the minority, that kind of wishes that this rivalry only happened once a year. I feel like some of the best rivalries in college basketball only happen once a year. I'm from Southern Indiana, so U of L versus UK, Louisville versus Kentucky, that one time a year, it has, there's something about that one time a year that you don't get when IU takes on Purdue twice a year, and you don't get when North Carolina takes on Duke twice a year, et cetera, et cetera. If this became a thing that just happened every year, I'd be cool with it. I'd be very cool with it. But in the meantime, if it's not, it's going to be one time we'll play you once, and the next time we'll play you twice. That stuff always gets on my nerves. I was looking through. The only other point I've got to make is it seems like maybe Penn State maybe got a better draw. I don't find a more favorable draw than Indiana's. There's a couple that are arguable, but Penn State has Iowa, Maryland, Nebraska, Northwestern, and Ohio State. And I don't think you can get much better than that. But other than that, those are my 2 points on the schedule.
And obviously we'll have to see how teams shake out, because no one really thought Minnesota was going to be as good last year as they were. And so there's always surprises. Zach, I just want to say respectfully that I vehemently disagree with you about how you Purdue. It should be played twice every year, home and away. Our guys need to deal with Mackey Arena. Their guys need to deal with Simon Scott Assembly Hall, and that's just how it should be. That's what makes the world right. Indiana, Kentucky should play once. Indiana, Purdue should play twice. And anything outside of that is just wrong. And it's not the world that I want to that's not the world that I grew up in. It's not the world I want to be in. So let's fix this and let's make the world right. All righty. Coming up in our next segment, it is time to talk about the new recruits. So Race Thompson, Jerome Hunter, and Damezi Anderson. We're going to break down all three and tell you about the first three commitments of the Archie Miller era. That is coming up on the Assembly Call. Stick with us. And we're going to talk about that because, Ryan, you did a lot of work to get this tape, and we got to make it worth your effort. All right. I forgot to start the outro song, so I was trying to fill there for the last 10 seconds, if you couldn't tell.
Yeah.
I had a good smooth outro, and then I forgot to do the music.
Yeah, my friend Zach is another Zach is a AAU coach, and his guys do scouting, and he had 3 full games of these guys. So
nice. He
put it in Google Drive, and I watched it. And
by the way, hello to the YouTube audience. We've got a nice sized live audience tonight. This is the biggest live audience we've had in about 8 weeks, I think, because there's finally some news. Like, there's some exciting stuff happening. Everybody's got a little bounce in their step, which is exciting.
Yeah, they found out Ryan had tape.
I do have tape.
I was thinking about just making that the title of this episode. Just Ryan's got tape with a big exclamation point.
I love how you guys are obsessed with that. You and Andy specifically are like obsessed with that. Like,
I just like it. It sounds so official. When you're going to do, because some people might say like, yeah, I watch clips on YouTube, or I watch you watch tape. Like that's such an old school. That's what my dad used to say when he would.
But I don't watch
recruiting.
clips on YouTube. If you watch highlights, everybody looks like an all-star.
I know, that's what I'm saying. So when you say tape, like there's an extra gravitas to the work that you've done, and we just want to play it up a little.
No, the extra gravitas is when you use the phrase "break it down."
Mm-hmm.
Break it down.
I broke it down. What I do is I break down film,
deconstruct it.
That's right.
Okay, so I think we are ready to go here. So how do we want to structure this, Ryan? Because we have these good comments from Adam. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first? Introduce the guy, give the comments from Adam, and then
introduce the guy, give one or two comments from Adam, and I'll give mine. Because it's if you give too much from somebody outside, it's this is our thing. So, but I will respond to a couple of his comments.
Okay.
Because it's not like we're getting the comments from Doug Gottlieb or a college basketball guy. So let's
Doug Gottlieb.
Well, I'm just naming the first college basketball analyst that came to my mind.
Why is that the first one that came?
I don't know. I saw him on
TV.
I saw him on TV.
Everyone get
Jay
him.
Billis, all right? God.
YouTubers, get him.
No, I just
Doug
saw Gottlieb like an hour ago, so that was why I thought of him. But no, I've got pretty thorough breakdowns on these guys.
Why don't you say like John Rothstein or?
Yeah, you know what? Shut up.
Okay.
Is July.
We got a little extra juice in our step tonight, I feel like.
Let's get through it. I got to get back to work.
It's true. And you need to sleep.
Dude, seriously. For a while. The driving has been horrible.
Break down film.
Okay, here we go.
Yep.
Let's start. You are listening to the Assembly Call. I'm Jared Morris here talking IU Hoops with Ryan Phillips and Zach McCray. And let's jump right in here, because the topic that everybody wants to talk about is the three new commits: Race Thompson, Jerome Hunter, and Damezi Anderson. And we've got scouting reports on all three guys. So Ryan has obviously watched extensive tape on each of these guys, and he has thoughts. Our buddy Adam Crone, who on Twitter is acrone1985, I highly recommend that you follow him. A really good college basketball and just IU follow. Goes to a lot of these events and has scouted these guys and sent me a massive email about them. And so I've got some bullet points from him as well on these guys, because he's watched them more than I have. And so his opinion is better than mine. And so we're going to give you some bullet points from him too, and then let Ryan talk about each guy. So let's start with Race Thompson, who, Ryan, as you mentioned, is planning to redshirt. He might get to campus, soon for the fall and be there all year. It could take him a little bit longer to finish his high school requirements, and so he might not get there until the second semester, but he is going to reclassify. He is planning to redshirt, and so we'll see how that goes. But he's, a really interesting player, about, 6'7", 6'8", has good size. And what you hear from a lot of people, and this is what Adam said as well, is that he's really got good range on his shot and good shot mechanics. And obviously when you have a guy who's that size, who has the frame to put on some bulk and can go down low and bang a little bit, be a rebounder, be a defensive player, but also be able to step out and shoot, that really adds a nice dimension when, Zach mentioned, you're trying to play this more positionless style of basketball where guys have more roles than they have positions. And so I think that's big. The question for Race, it seems like, will be, kind of getting his body right, trying to improve his athleticism to be able to play at the next level. But a really skilled, interesting player who also, interestingly enough, is an AAU teammate of Matt Hurt, a five-star guy in the class of 2019, I believe, that Indiana is interested in, and basically every other big school in the country is interested in. So how that relationship affects Indiana's recruitment, I don't know. But Race, as all these guys, a top 100 recruit, a really intriguing prospect. Ryan, what did you come away thinking about Race after watching him play?
Well, I thought he's a big guy at 6'8", and he's listed at 200. I think he's probably a little bigger than that, but it's not necessarily great weight. But he plays a power game really on the inside. He really wants to get to the hoop, but he also can step out and hit jumpers, as you said, and he's got really good shot mechanics. He's an aggressive finisher and is not afraid of contact. That was one thing I really liked about seeing that. And he's already got a really nice array of post moves. He's a good rebounder, appears to be a willing defender as far as I can tell, from the video I watched. He really does need to get stronger and work on his body, though. I feel like it's not a great. He's got very. He's not super muscular and he's not super athletic, as I'm sure you noted. But I think that there is a sneaky athleticism there that he can unlock from time to time when he's going up for dunks and things like that. His vertical is a lot better than I thought it was. So I think he really just needs a strength program to unleash that. I've
heard people compare him to Juwan Morgan. Do you buy that?
The thing that I would compare him and actually the two other guys to Juwan Morgan is that they're all Swiss Army knives. They're all guys who can do multiple things for you. I could see the comparison to Juwan. I think Juwan's a better athlete. But again, it's sneaky athleticism with Juwan. He didn't step onto campus and everybody was lauding his athleticism like OG Anunoby, but he's a great athlete and it shows up from time to time. So I think Race Thompson really needs to get into a strength program and work on his flexibility, his lateral quickness, things like that. And I think he can become a much better athlete with that. One thing is on his longer jumpers, I think he leans back too far, and that can result in a flat shot. So he's kind of just falls away when he shoots. And if he can just get on balance with his jumper, I think it'll be lethal because he certainly has nice mechanics and a great feel on that. And he really likes, there's a spinning move he likes in the post where it's a fadeaway that is incredibly pretty. I'm not sure it's the smartest shot in the world, but it goes in a lot, and if it works for him, it works for him. But he has a nice little fadeaway that Indiana fans are going to like, as long as that's not the only shot he relies on and he tries to get to the hoop more.
Someone make note of Ryan saying if it works for him, it works for him, so that in 3 years when he's criticizing that shot on a post,
I'm going to be all over it. Over it.
We remember this. Okay, so next up, we talked about Race Thompson. Let's talk about Jerome Hunter from Ohio. He is the highest rated of these three guys. And I tell you, everybody that you talk to, and I talked to Alex Bozich about this guy, Adam, Ryan, I think you share this sentiment. A lot of other people do. People are just really excited about his potential, and, not a ton of negatives to point out, but just tons and tons of positives, and people are really effusive in their praise of Jerome's athleticism, of the way that he plays, and his potential, because he's not a guy who has played a lot of basketball. He just, I think, picked up the game, in middle school and started taking it seriously a few years ago. And to do that, think, okay, he's a great athlete. Maybe he's a little bit raw, but he's a pretty skilled guy. And that's what comes out. I've just watched highlight tapes, but also when you read what people say about him who have watched him more, like what Adam said, he just raved about his offense, said instant offense, can literally score from anywhere, and also said huge upside with this kid. I don't see him making it to his senior year. I see him leaving after his junior season once he learns the game and puts on more weight. You can't teach hustle, and he has it, and it was all over the court. A smooth player that makes it look easy, great shot, quick trigger, will just pull up and hit on you, and also mentioned how great of a floater he has. And so just in that quick description, you kind of hear a very multifaceted offensive game. And obviously he's got the athleticism to be a really good defender in a system like what Archie Miller has. And so people are just really, really excited about his potential. And Ryan, I'm pretty sure the same goes for you.
Yeah, at the top of my list on my notes, it just says, love this kid. I love everything Jerome Hunter brings. I think he's going to be a lot more highly rated than he is right now by the time the end of his senior season. He's just a guy that is getting better by leaps and bounds. And at 6'7", he's probably a little under 200 pounds. He's pretty skinny and he has room to put on weight. I think he's going to be taller. He has incredible length. He is an unbelievable shooter. He has perfect form, especially, when you consider he hasn't played basketball that seriously for that long. He has perfect form, a perfect release, gets great rotation on the ball, is very balanced when he takes off. There's not a lot of showboating in his shot where he's trying to finish high and show off with it. Everything is perfect, and there's one goal, and that's to put the ball in the hoop. I think he's got a great feel for the game. That was the thing I noted watching full game film of him, is he just has an incredible feel for the game. He knows when to drive, when to pull up, when he's got enough space to pull up and have room to get it off over his defender, and then when to just move the ball. He also uses his length really well, grabs a lot of rebounds. He's going to need to get better with his body as far as rebounding is concerned, but right now he's just the kind of guy who just reaches over people and snatches the ball. But he's also a good enough ball handler that he can get out and transition as soon as he rebounds it and can lead the break. And that's impresses. That impresses me a lot, especially for his age. incredible shooting touch, mid-range or deeper. He's a great shooter. He's not bad around the hoop, but he needs to get better finishing. He is more smooth than strong at this point, which means he needs to bulk up. The way he's getting baskets around the rim is by being smoother and quicker than people, and that's not going to happen at the next level. He needs to be stronger and needs to be able to finish through contact and things like that, and I haven't seen much evidence of that. He will definitely need to bulk up when he hits college. I think most high school players do. I don't think that's really a shock, but with him specifically, because of the way he's going to need to also score going to the basket, he's going to need to get bigger. I think he's a decent athlete. I don't think he's an overwhelming athlete. I think he's a good athlete, but not one of these elite jump over you guys. But the thing is that his athleticism plays in perfectly to the way he plays. The amount of athleticism he needs to be a scorer like he is perfectly married to his game. And I also saw the makings of decent vision. I don't think he's there yet, but decent. He spots things, and it's almost like he spots them a half second too late. And I think that's just a lack of experience. But in the games that I watched, he would get the ball out and get it there for the assist, but it was almost like he saw it just a fraction too late. So more experience, that'll help. He'll anticipate more than just spotting the open guy.
When you write your memoir, The Makings of Decent Vision would be an interesting title for it.
Yeah, that would be good. When I think about it,
I was thinking maybe if it works for him, it works for him.
Yeah,
I think
might work too.
I've always said my memoir was going to be titled "I Could Nap," but
well, it certainly won't be. He uses his length really well.
No.
Okay.
No.
You are listening. You are listening to the Assembly Call. I'm Jared Morris here with Ryan Phillips and Zach McCright, and we are giving you scouting reports of Indiana's 3 commits from the past week. So we have talked now about Race Thompson. We've talked about Jerome Hunter. Let's talk about Damezi Anderson from Indiana, from South Bend, Indiana. Adam Crone, our Twitter scout, again, he sent me huge write-ups on these guys. And, the thing that he noticed about Damezi, that Alex Bozic did too, when I joined him on Podcast on the Brink, is Damezi is just a scorer. He's a knockdown shooter. He's a scorer. He's got a quick release. He's got a nose for the ball. He finds a way to rebound and then get the ball up, up on the rim. Like he's one of those guys that just has a knack for scoring, even though he may not be the greatest athlete on the court, may not have, all the fancy dribbling skills and all of that, but he just knows how to score the basketball. And really every positive that you see about him, is about his scoring ability. There seem to be some questions about, his ball handling, his passing, maybe even his athleticism. That will obviously need to get better. But, at some point you need guys that can just put the ball in the basket. And he is a guy who can certainly do that. I'm curious, Brian, if you noticed what I did when watching him play, which is that, he doesn't really set his feet very well when he shoots, and he gets a little bit off balance. You kind of watch him, his feet kind of kick out from underneath him, and that will work sometimes at the high school level when you have more space to shoot. I wonder, as the windows close a little bit, if he's going to have to tighten up those mechanics to be able to shoot with the same efficiency at the college level that he has at the high school and AAU level. I mean, I'm really excited about him. I think he's going to be a fun player just because guys like him that just have a knack for scoring are fun to watch. It is going to be interesting to see how his game translates to the next level.
I wrote a dissertation on what's wrong with his shot.
I figured.
I wrote so he's a good shooter. He is, and he gets results. That is certainly true. And he's not afraid either. The guy he's not shy at all. But I don't like his form right now. He rarely holds his finish. When he releases it, he doesn't keep his hand high. He snatches his arm back a lot of times. His right leg, as you mentioned, his right leg will kick out from under him, which means he's off balance when he's shooting, and that's not okay. He does have a quick release, but it's almost like it's too quick, and he just snaps his arm back, and it's kind of I don't want to call it lazy or showboating, but that's kind of what it is. It's, you fire it, and you kind of want to bounce back on defense as it's in the air and do that Steph Curry thing. Well, there's a reason Steph Curry is the guy who does that. It's because he can do it. He's earned the right to do that. As a high schooler, you haven't. So he needs to work on balance on his shot, on the finishing, and on his release. But they go in, and that means he's got the makings of a good shot. He actually gets really good rotation on the ball, despite my complaints about it. I think he's got solid touch around the rim, but he's not really a a powerful finisher considering his size. I mean, he's 6'6", probably pushing 6'7", and he's got to be up around 200 pounds. And he's you're right in that he's a scorer. But at the same time, there's a lot that needs to be fixed there, because I think that he just needs to be more focused when he has the ball. Not a great ball handler. He can play some defense, but his lateral quickness is not there. Again, he's another guy who will tremendously benefit from a college weight program, getting into game shape, getting into college shape. And he's big for a wing, and so he's going to really need to get that flexibility, and lateral quickness. We saw it with Thomas Bryant, got gradually better with that as well, sort of unlocked some athleticism there, and I think the same thing will happen with Anderson.
He's another guy who is ascendant. Like he's
for sure.
He's moved up the charts, which is what you want to see. Not a guy who was highly rated and then is like moving down.
And everything that I saw that was an issue can be fixed. I mean, it's not like there's this gaping, gigantic problem with his game. He is certainly a talented guy, knows how to score. Those guys are rare. I mean, we just have an innate ability to score, especially when you have an innate ability to score and you haven't unlocked, the best parts of your game yet. So it'll be interesting to see how he develops this year. I'm sure he'll be in the mix for Mr. Basketball and all those awards and everything. It'll be interesting to see how he handles that and how he develops throughout the rest of the summer and into the fall and starting up his season.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's a kid from Indiana, and Indiana needs to go back to getting 4-star guys from the state of Indiana. And I think that's why the commitment of Damezi Anderson was, in addition to the fact that you're getting a really good player, a guy with a lot of potential, that's the other reason why it was important.
Well, let me just say something real quick, too. It's also important that they're recruiting the Midwest. Like, forget the just Indiana thing. They got a guy from Ohio, they got a guy from Minnesota, and they got a guy from Indiana. That's recruiting your backyard, even if it's not just Indiana. I know everybody's, wants the Indiana guys. But, hey, there are great players in Illinois. There's some great players that come out of Michigan. There's some great players that come out of everywhere in this region.
They're competitors in Big Ten country.
Exactly, and they know. And when you get them, you're keeping them away from rivals too. So, that's a big part of the whole thing.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, Zach, you have a comment and another topic, so we're going to hit that at the top of our next segment. We are also going to get to our Twitter Q&A because we got a bunch of good questions. So that is coming up. Stick with us here on the Assembly Call. But final thought on these recruits is we're all excited. Bodes very well for the future of Indiana basketball. Can't wait to get these guys on campus. All right. Let me just double check that real quick.
And I'm spent.
You're spent? All right. So
well done. Well done.
That was good, Ryan.
Thanks.
Let me just check the time real quick here.
I think if you promote the radio show tomorrow that we're doing scouting reports, it might get some listenership.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, we will.
By the way, Jared, did you ever have any interaction with Brooks from Sports by Brooks?
Long ago, back in the Midwest Sports Fans days.
I have to send you something. Did you heard about Jeff Perlman was trying to find him because he just fell off the face of the earth? That guy.
I
know what's funny? I was trying to find him randomly 6 months ago. I was just looking for people from back in the sports blogging days,
and he disappeared. And Jeff Perlman did your nemesis. I
don't mind Jeff Perlman.
I know, I'm kidding. But wasn't he the guy against you on that?
No, that was Ken Rosenthal.
Ken Rosenthal.
But we made up. All was
Ken Rosenthal. You had a baseball guy after you?
This was long ago.
Jared was on ESPN, and they put Ken Rosenthal on to spank him.
They did.
Yeah, it was actually a very seminal moment in sports.
I read Perlman's piece on Brooks. It was long.
Did somebody email it to you?
Actually, I take that back.
It's never been published.
It was an interview. It was a podcast. No, actually, it wasn't print.
All right.
Well, let's have an interview.
Sorry, but I got to tell you this real quick, Jared, before I forget. So, no, what he did was he did talk about it on a podcast. He talked about doing the piece, but he didn't have the piece. He's got a 10,000-word article he never published because they decided that there might be some mental health stuff going on, and they didn't want to.
Oh man,
Brooks did not want to be found. I'll forward the piece to you. You can't spread it around, but I'll forward it to you.
So we shouldn't talk about it on a live show. That's
No,
a
absolutely
broadcast,
not.
Yeah.
Absolutely no. I'm not saying any details about it. Come on.
I know. I was just pointing out the irony.
That's exactly. I listened to, and you almost said it verbatim. I would listen to something, and that's where I remember hearing that he just does not want to be found.
Yeah.
Okay. So Zach, I'll come to you first, and then we've got a couple good questions here, and those can probably take us in with both segments. Okay. So I'll kick it to you first, Zach.
Cool.
All right, you guys ready?
Yep.
I am ready. Here we go. You're listening to the Assembly Call. Go to assemblycall.com/join to activate your free membership. You will get our weekly 6-banner Saturday news roundup delivered right to your inbox each Saturday or Sunday morning, depending on the week. That way you can stay up to date with your Hoosiers during the offseason and even once the season begins. The URL is assemblycall.com/join. I am Jared Morris, talking IU basketball with my co-hosts on the Assembly Call, Ryan Phillips and Zach McCright. And Zach, you had a thought at the end of our last segment where we were doing scouting reports of each of the 3 recruits.
Well, I know reading the comment I had is I know reading Adam Crone's notes, with the exception of Jerome, who just seems to be, an all-out star in the making, that the other 2, at least with one of them, he's got athleticism as a minus, and the other one, that's with Race Thompson, and with Damezi, it's another minus. It says athleticism ? And I'm just wondering, is this, or maybe it is a question? Maybe I've got 2 questions. Is this, outside of Jerome, maybe a group of 3 that might lack in the athleticism department more than we would hope from our first 3 recruits?
I think Race Thompson has athleticism, and I think it shows up at times, but it's not consistent. And I think, to me, that says that he needs to get in the right weight program and needs to maybe gain some flexibility, because when guys are athletes, sometimes they don't know they're athletes and they don't perform like they're athletes, but they've got athleticism to be unlocked. And I think, again, Thomas Bryant was the guy we saw that. I mean, Thomas Bryant's vertical went up tremendously when he's in Indiana, and the reason why is he learned better habits. He learned, they worked on his flexibility, they worked on things that he had never worked on before, strength and muscles he'd never used before, and all of a sudden he was a much better athlete. And I think that's there with Race Thompson. You watch Race Thompson catch a ball flat-footed, jump up and dunk it easily. I mean, I know he's 6'8", but there's bounce in his step. You see how high he gets off the floor. So it's almost like when he's motivated, that athleticism is there, but you don't see it play to play. So that tells me it's there. He just needs to learn how to use it more properly. For Anderson, I'm not sure how athletic he's going to be. He hasn't run the floor a ton in the tape that I've seen. He's not getting high off the ground when he's going to the hoop. So I'm not looking at him as an athlete. I think Race Thompson, it's there. Obviously with Hunter, it's there. He is an athlete and it has enough athleticism to fit the style of game he plays.
And the only other thing I wanted to ask was, what previous weakness, or maybe what current weakness that IU has got the best jolt?
Well, I think that these guys, 2 of them for sure, and maybe even Anderson, as he bulks up a little bit, they can all play inside and then also step out on the wing. I mean, they're not going to be back to the basket post guys, but they can defend down there and they can help you out. And that's a very thin area of the team, sort of in the way that Colin Hartman and Juwan Morgan can play in the post. That's probably not their best spot. They're probably better as sort of like that, a wing player or a stretch 4, but they can go down in there if needed, and they can take the punishment of a post player. I think all 3 of these guys can do that, but that's, again, they're wing players. I think Race is more of a stretch 4 kind of guy, but they're wing players who can get inside and mix it up. And I think that is you need that in the Big Ten. You need those guys who can get down there on the block.
They can also shoot it. I mean, these are versatile guys who, all 3 of those guys can step out and shoot too. Yep. So you have, good size and versatility. I mean, it's going to give Archie a lot of options, because
that's the best part.
All three of these guys could play together. It's not like you've got these 3 guys and they can never be on the court together.
No, for sure.
That's good.
And people were wondering about that, like, oh, well, they're all listed as small forwards and whatever. No, they will work together. They can all play,
and they're going to be joining Justin Smith, another guy who's kind of right in that same size range. But
exactly.
I'm a big fan of, and this is my last thought. I'm a big fan of a team. Everybody talks about like with they go offense first, and believe me, I'll take shooters for days. Don't get me wrong, but I would really like a team that would be able to switch on everything. I mean, I'm huge on that. Like, if you can give me a team that can switch on everything and not lose too much of a beat, then I think you're at. I kind of feel like you're at the sort of team that can knock off and don't get me twisted here, a Golden State Warriors type of offense, if you know what I mean.
No, and that's right. And that's you're able to spread the floor, but then you can take those guys with that length and put them on the block if you have a size matchup. So
headline. Zach says Indiana can beat Golden State.
Yeah, yes. I know. I went right when I was about to say, I was like,
that has supplanted Ryan Got Tape as the new headline for this episode. Okay, so let's get to some of these questions. So first question comes from Jordan. Within reason, what would be your ideal finish to the 2018 class? And he also adds, how much tape has Ryan watched on the new recruits, and did he discover them? So we know how much tape you watch, Ryan. Which one do you want to put in an early claim on discovering any of these guys?
Well, I guess I'll go with Hunter since I like him the most. But no, I actually have been – he's of the three guys, I've followed him the longest because somebody at an AAU tournament a few months ago – I have some friends who are AAU coaches or assistants, and somebody tipped me off to him a few months ago, said he'd be really good. He thought he was going to wind up somewhere like Xavier or something like that, and he thought he would be really good. And so I watched a little bit of – just highlights of him a couple months ago, and never knowing that IU would get him. So I've liked him for a while, and I think, as I said, I think he's an ascendant player who's going to move up the ranks very quickly.
You're listening to the Assembly Column. Jared Morris here with Ryan Phillips and Zach McCright. So let's take the first part of Jordan's question. Within reason, what would be your ideal finish to the 2018 class? Well, I mean, Jordan, if you're asking for the ideal finish, give me Romeo Langford, give me Darius Garland, and let's throw in Lugens Dort from Canada as well, a 5-star shooting guard prospect. There aren't a lot of big guys on the radar because there just aren't a lot of big guys in this class.
Well, it's a very thin class.
Yeah, you always want to get a big guy, but that may not happen this year. Now, you look in future classes with a guy like James Wiseman who's listing Indiana, there may be more big guys there, but, so those would be the ideal. But I think – look, we all know that we want to get Romeo. Obviously, everybody would love to have Darius Garland. Either way, Indiana needs to get a point guard. So Darius Garland, David Duke, Rob Finney are the three names that you hear. Some other conversations have started, with Archie Miller and some other point guard prospects, maybe just to have some backup plans or to put some pressure on, a guy like Finney, who knows. But I think any ideal situation is going to include Romeo Langford, and I think Indiana absolutely needs a point guard. And then if you can get a really talented player like an Aaron Henry, who I think would be a great add, or, a guy like Lugens Dort, you take them. But, you also, there's only going to be one senior, when Juwan Morgan leaves, and you may want to think about saving one of those scholarships so that you can balance the classes a little bit more. It just kind of depends on, how Archie wants to balance that and what level of player he could get to commit right now. But certainly Romeo's in there, and then you have to get a point guard. I think those are the two that everybody's focusing on, and rightly so. Ryan, any thoughts on what your ideal finish?
I think it'd be Robert Finney and Romeo Langford. I like Finney. I think he's undervalued. I think he's the 24 composite has him around 115 or 114. I think he's better than that. I think he's one of those guys that's flown under the radar. He's not big. He's 6 foot, maybe 170. And he
was ranked higher than that. He just struggled in the spring and dealt with some injuries and didn't play quite as well.
And I think he's as you said. I think that he's struggled and he's undervalued. And then then getting Romeo Langford, that's two Indiana guys. Everybody wants Indiana guys. Aaron Henry would be nice as another wing you can add. But again,
he's a really good player.
He is, and there's not a lot of size in this class, so adding another versatile wing is pretty much where you got to go. But again, as you said, it'd be nice to save a scholarship or two because it doesn't look like many guys are going to be leaving after this year.
Zach, what do you think? And how hard are you working to get Romeo right
now? I'm going to be doing a lot of play-by-play. I don't know if I knew that last time I was on or not, but
for New Albany games?
Yeah. Now that I'm back in town, and I just moved. For those who didn't know, I just moved back to Indiana after 5 years away in different markets doing sports radio. But they got me back doing play-by-play like I was doing before I left, and I'm sure the docket will be loaded with New Albany games. So I'm looking forward to that. I guess I would just I'm way down the road here, but I was just thinking about, if you did finish off the class with the Romeo, do you think they stop at 4? And if they do, it would make it. I don't think they would, but if they do, it would be interesting to see who your point guard would end up being that would come out of that. I mean, I don't necessarily see Romeo as a point guard at the college level. So
Devontae Green. I mean, Devontae Green would have to be your point guard, or Al Durham, depending on how Al Durham develops, which we don't know yet. But
I forget about Durham, but yeah, you're right. I was thinking maybe Green or bust, but that's just what I was thinking as you guys were talking. That's what was processing.
And see, and I don't think that would be good, because I think it's good to have those versatile guys, but none of those guys are creators. Like there's got to be kind of a guy, in a Yogi Ferrell mode, and you're not going to find a guy that good, I'm sure. But there's got to be someone to make things happen and distribute and get guys where they need to go. I think Rob Finney would really fit well in that role.
I'm sorry to step on you there. Then the answer to your question then is, to fill out this class, it's not necessarily a big man; it's a point guard. Like that.
No, they have to.
And there's no big men to get anyway.
Right. Yeah, they have to get a point guard this year. I don't think there's any question about that. I think they have to go get a point guard this year. Even if they don't get Romeo Langford, who I agree is not a point guard, I see him more as a scoring guard. I think you've got to get a pure point at some point in this class, because there just isn't that depth on the roster of another point guard.
Yep. All right, guys, we've got some more questions. We are going to get to those in our final segment coming up, including a really interesting idea someone proposed for how Indiana fans can work together to convince Romeo to come to Bloomington. We'll get to that coming up next. All right, that was 11:09.
As long as it doesn't involve tweeting at him or showing up at his house or
no.
Good tease. That was a good tease.
Thank you. 8:44. Okay, so we have 8 minutes and 44 seconds for this segment. There we go. All right, so let's look at these questions real quick, because Kyle said, which of the 3 commits do you feel was most important, impactful for future recruiting?
Probably Race, because of his teammate.
Or you could say Damezi, because it's an Indiana guy. But I don't know how much that really, makes a difference to other recruits. But yeah, Race is a good one. Craig asked, so do we want to cover any more how to manage the scholarship situation with only one opening up in 2019, or do you think we covered that enough? I think we kind of covered that.
That gets boring if you talk about it too much, I think.
That's true. Okay, so let's talk about who is the most important, impactful, and then we'll get to Noah's comment. And then we can talk about every week someone asks, what are your expectations for IU and Archie's first year?
That's the first thing I thought too when I read your
every week. That one always comes. Is there any other let me check the YouTube chat real quick. I just want to make sure we cover all the important stuff from this week. Yeah, that's probably good.
Oh, that's an inside shot at the YouTubers there. You're not bringing the heat. You're not bringing the material.
Oh, did I just take an inside shot? Well, someone took an inside shot on us. It's BG2E said the radio listeners are missing some great visuals. That can't possibly. That has to be sarcasm, because there are no great visuals going on right now.
Well, except for me.
Like Zach is just emerging from darkness.
Yes, of course. I have the black background.
Yeah, I've got light awkwardly shining on my forehead.
I'm just incredibly good looking, so
yeah. Ryan's over there using his big baller brand microphone that he paid $750 for.
Here, I will show people if it will. I'll use this light here. I don't know. Nope, it's not going to work.
Not going to work. You're in a cave. It's fine. You're in a cave.
It's cool.
Broadcasting.
It's like Andy. Andy's always broadcasting from an undisclosed location where he's being held as a hostage.
No, this has turned into this room. Not too long ago used to be a straight office, and now it's the playroom. And so this is done by design. It's not on accident. There are toys everywhere.
Mm-hmm. I know how that is. If I turned my camera around, you would see a floor full of toys. This is what happens, Ryan. This is what happens.
Why do you think I haven't procreated?
Yeah, enjoy breaking down film.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, you chose this life, guys. You chose this.
That is true.
That's true.
That is true.
That's true.
And we love it.
Your own
We love it. We love it.
We could have just rolled over.
We love it. Okay, let's finish this off. So we got 8:44. Okay. Zach, do you want me to come to you? Do you want me to come to you on the which of the 3 commits was the most important, impactful?
Yeah, go him first.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. So let's hit that for 3 or 4 minutes, and then we'll do this other Romeo story. We'll end with that. All right. Here we go. You are listening to the Assembly Call. I'm Jared Morris here, wrapping up another week of talking IU basketball with Ryan Phillips and Zach McCright. And we've got a couple more good questions that you all submitted, and so we want to get to those real quick. This question comes from Kyle. Which of the 3 commits do you feel was the most important or impactful as far as future recruiting goes? This is an interesting question. Zach, do any of these 3 stand out as being more impactful than the others in terms of who it will help Indiana get down the line?
Well, I'm gonna take a big picture stance at this, and hopefully you guys will understand. The listeners out there will get it. But there was a lot of times over the course of the Tom Crean era that we moaned and complained about Tom Crean not being able to get enough Indiana-born recruits. So. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I know that, I know Cody, I get Cody Zeller, Yogi Ferrell, et cetera. I mean, I get all that. Okay. But I know we still complained. So I'll go ahead and go with the South Bend boy and say that's the guy. He may not be the best player, but it's, at least for me, it's a message that, and kind of to bounce off what Ryan said in a previous segment, not just Indiana, but the surrounding areas are being kind of infiltrated now, where I'm not sure how much that was really being done in the Tom Crean era. So that right off the bat, just out of the gate, if this happened in year 2, this same class happened in year 2, and there wasn't necessarily an Indiana guy in this first class, maybe we don't talk about it. But, that at least off the bat, whether you get Romeo or you don't get Romeo, at least it's like, okay, Indiana boys are good enough for Indiana, and I'm not sure we always got that thought in the past. In spite of your Yogis and your Codys, etc.
I mean, Tom Crean started out well in the state. It just petered off quite quickly and kind of dropped off. I mentioned earlier that Race Thompson was AAU teammates with Matt Hurt, and so that could certainly impact that future recruit. But I'm going to go with Jerome Hunter here just because I think he's the best player, and I think the best way to impact future recruiting is to put the best team on the floor. I mean, guys want to go where they're going to have a chance to compete for Big Ten titles, for national championships, the one-and-done types like Romeo Langford. He wants to go and really have success in his one season. And so I think the better team that you can put out on the floor, the better you're going to be able to attract recruits. And I think pretty much everybody who has talked about these 3 commitments thinks that Jerome Hunter is the best player right now and the guy with the highest ceiling. And so I'm going to say him just because the bottom line is you want to put the best team out there. Ryan, any different thoughts on who is the most impactful of these 3 guys in terms of the future?
I actually agree with you, shockingly. I think it's Hunter because I think that he's a guy who's going to come in and make the team better. And I think that, and I've said it from the beginning, that, even if this wasn't a great recruiting class, the way that Archie Miller is going to win recruits, and you could say, do it with all the flashy stuff. You can do it with your personality. You can do it with this. You can do it with that. Best way to get to recruits is to win. And you keep winning and the recruits will come. And I think that's the best path to do it. And I think Jerome Hunter is the guy who helps you win the most, the soonest. So I feel
like we agree more often than not, don't we?
I don't know. I just like creating conflict.
You do. That is the name of your memoir. I just like creating conflict. There we go. That's me. Your memoir. It certainly won't be better than advertised.
No. Of course
that's
not.
I think that's one of the great things.
I should name my memoir as advertised.
That is one of the great things about this show, though. That's the chemistry part of this show, is that everyone is trying to create conflict with someone else. I love it.
That's right. Okay, so I got to get to this because we teased it. This is from Noah. So Noah texted me this. There's an idea starting that would have IU students go down to New Albany and cheer on Romeo for a couple games this season. Realistically, how much do you think this might help his decision to see IU fans at his high school game cheering him on? Also, if this plan were to start to hold water and when the high school schedule is released, would you guys mind helping to advertise to reach as many people as possible? So I have a couple quick thoughts on this. Number one, I feel like there's already going to be a whole lot of red in the New Albany stands no matter what. Now, if students
will it be Louisville red?
Well, okay. When I said red, I meant Indiana. I think there will be plenty of Indiana fans there. So what do we think, Zach? If Indiana students start going down en masse to New Albany, is that creepy, or is that, hey, they really want me, and this is a little taste of what it'll be like at Simon Scott Assembly Hall?
Creepy is a sliding scale when you're talking about sending out Twitter messages to these kids and things of that nature.
Don't tweet. Do not tweet players. If you want to retweet their announcement and say congratulations or whatever, but don't tweet directly at players.
I mean, I'm not saying that going to a high school kids basketball game is not a little weird, but at least you're not tweeting directly at a 17-year-old. So that's good. I think the first thing that came to my mind is good luck getting a ticket.
That's why the smart people call the games.
That's exactly right. I'm not going to be. Come on. There's a reason I got into media. It saved me a lot of money over the years. But I would say if you're going to get it, that you better hope for advertisers, because I know the doghouse at New Albany. They call it the doghouse. It seats, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in the 5,000 to 6,000 range, and it will be sold out every night. Every night. So go early, I would say. I'm sure there'll be some left at the door around 4 or 5 o'clock. Go early, or hope for advertisers that will help you buy a ticket that will be scalped on the side of the street. I'm just telling you.
Or go to his road games. Make it turn his road games into home games.
That would be very cool.
I think I like that idea better.
That's very good, but there'll be a lot of gyms smaller than the one I just told you about. So good luck finding a ticket to those as well.
Yep. That's what I mean. That would be my plan. If you're trying to formulate this plan, guys, go to aim for the road games, because this home game is
Seymour.
Especially if you're in Seymour. I covered games in that league for a long time. He might play at one of the Columbus schools. We don't have a schedule out yet or whatever, but he might be.
He'll play at Columbus East. That's in the same conference. He'll play at Seymour, and those are both a half-hour drive from Bloomington.
Jeffersonville, I'm sure. What's the other one? Bedford, not Bedford, but
yeah, Bedford's in the league
conference. And then there's Jennings County.
Those are all. Jeffersonville is just as far away as New Albany, but as far as Columbus East, Jennings County, Seymour, Bedford, those are all within 45 minutes of Bloomington, and I'm sure at least half of those will be on the road. So that's a good idea.
Make a night out of it.
It's such a weird thing. Like when you step back and think about it, like here we are, 3 grown men, on a Thursday night, and we're talking about the high school schedule of a 17-year-old who's about to play basketball.
I covered that conference for like 5 years, and he's currently a radio guy for it. So
no, I'm just saying, when you step back and think about it, and think about how much time and attention is paid. I was talking to Heather earlier this week, and excited about all the news and stuff. And I was just kind of like, we're excited because 3 high school guys announced that they're going to go to college.
I mean, that's part of the reason when I talked about, I pruned my little sports tree, as you get older and you have more responsibilities. The reason I pruned this limb is for that specific reason. Okay, I'm excited, but I will be. That'll mean I'm following 16 and 17-year-old boys really closely, and there's just something. Okay, you guys do it.
It's called being an Indiana native, man. That's all.
I know.
And that seems like a perfect note to end this week's show.
Of course it is.
On.
Yes.
Alrighty. Well, that'll do it for us on this week's episode of the Assembly Call. If you want to see us do the show live and be part of the live chat, join us at assemblycall.com on Thursday nights for the live simulcast of our Assembly Call radio recording, or you can always subscribe to our podcast by searching for Assembly Call wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to go to assemblycall.com/join to activate your free Assembly Call membership. Thank you for listening. We will be back next week to talk IU hoops again with you. Until then, keep your elbows in and your eyes on the rim, and go Hoosiers. Perfect. Right on the second.
Look at you.
All right. Someone said there's going to be SeatGeek for high school games. Oh, okay. So Brian asked any player comps for the new recruits, either former IU or Big Ten players. Okay, let me add, because the one guy, Adam, said that Jerome Hunter reminds him, Adam Crone said Jerome Hunter reminds him of Troy Williams a little bit.
No.
But a better shooter.
He's way too polished for Troy, in my opinion. He's more of a, gosh, I'm trying to think.
I don't have a good one.
In high school, maybe a bit more of a wiry, athletic version of Holloway.
Holloway.
Yeah. What's his name?
Oh, Hollowell?
Hollowell, sorry, yeah. Yeah. The kid who left had one of the most forgettable careers in Indiana history.
Yeah, he's better. He's way better than Hollowell.
One of the local
he is, but I'm saying that the style of game.
Yeah.
Remember Hollowell was a huge recruit coming out of high school.
He was. I will say for Damezi, I think he's got some James Blackman and Rod Wilmot in him.
Robert Vaden.
Yeah, I've heard people say Robert Vaden.
Not a super athletic guy, shooter, wants to stand on the perimeter and do it when he could probably do more. That was the guy who jumped out at me. Race Thompson, gosh, I mean, I could see Juwan Morgan, but I think Juwan's a little more outwardly athletic.
He's a sneaky athlete, Juwan Morgan,
and so is Race Thompson. I'm telling you, watch his highlights and see how far off the floor he gets on his dunks. And
really,
yeah, when he's motivated, like I said, when he has a target, it's like some guys run faster when they're being chased on a football field. Like, but they'll have a terrible 40, but they'll get out there and you put somebody behind them, or you put him to chase a ball, like a guy with the ball, and they'll run way faster. It's just a mental thing. He's just got to get used to using his athleticism.
Yeah.
I didn't want to mention this because I know a lot of it's going to be on. I mean, I know you're doing this for radio tomorrow, but tonight here locally, Romeo got interviewed by the local television station here.
People should tune in.
Committed.
Which station?
Said his pitch, WLKY.com. Said one of the tweets I just saw was it's got a clip and says Romeo Langford on the recruiting pitch from Archie Miller. It says, "Come here and be the face of a new era." Then he says Langford says IU is also pitching him on becoming an Indiana legend. He has a shot of being a top 5 all-time prep scorer in Indiana this year, et cetera, et cetera.
Reasonable to me.
That's the right pitch. That's what I would go with.
Mm-hmm.
Basically the same pitch they gave Cody Zeller.
And probably the same pitch they gave Eric Gordon back in the day. And he would have been the face of a new era if the era hadn't gone right down the toilet. So,
yeah. All right.
That was that was a question that in our little IU boys text chain. So they said, who would have a bigger impact as a freshman, Eric Gordon or Romeo?
I would say Eric Gordon.
Man, it'd be tough to beat Eric Gordon. He was so good.
He was so good that year. I mean, he could do. There was nothing he couldn't do on a basketball floor.
I mean, if Romeo can come in and be Eric Gordon, because I just don't think Romeo's the athlete that Eric Gordon was.
No, and he's also not as big and strength wise. And I mean, Gordon came in to college at about the same size he is now.
Right.
And, he's only a little bigger and stronger. I mean,
physically he was fine-tuned.
He was a man. He was a man,
yeah.
And he came
Romeo's not there.
I mean, his first game, what he dropped, like 30 points or something.
Oh, yeah,
his first game, like it was. Yeah, no, I mean, I think Romeo.
Which isn't to say anything bad about Romeo.
Romeo's amazing.
But Eric Gordon, I think people forget the further we get removed from Eric Gordon's freshman year, the more people forget how.
Yeah, he
was spectacular.
Had it not been, that was a great freshman class too, and nationally, I remember I think it was Kevin Love and Kyle Singler,
Derrick Rose.
And so people forget, how good he was, but he was amazing, especially until the season went off the rails.
It did.
That's the reason he doesn't get remembered the way he should.
I know. The era went off the rails.
Of the crap. God, that team was 17-1 and beat Michigan State, ranked in the top 5.
Yeah, and it whipped.
Talk about what ifs.
Yeah. Hold on.
Why do we always end up getting on these depressing topics at the end of these shows? Last week it was 93. Oh, well.
Y'all talked about 93 last week? Ooh.
I know.
Yeah. See, I wasn't around for that. I mean,
if Andy and I are left to our own devices, that's just.
I know that story, but I know that story, but I was not around for that, and you guys are all just so.
Imagine being 12 when it happened. Like it seemed so much bigger and more important at the time.
No, trust me, I know.
Yeah.
A part of me died when Seton Hall lost to Michigan. I had started in 1989 in the NCAA championship. They went to overtime. That great game. I had become such a Seton Hall fan for some reason. I just loved watching that team that year. And when they lost to Michigan in the final, it was just I saw them on TV one week, and I was a young kid. I was like 8 or 9, and I saw them on TV, and I just like loved them, and I just fell in love. And
see, I can remember liking Michigan.
Well, everybody liked Michigan. That was the Ramil Robinson, Glenn Rice.
I was a big Glenn Rice fan.
Yeah, I know. And you know what? I also felt like in that final, because I like Michigan too, but I also felt like in that final, everybody liked Michigan. So I was the one guy who liked Seton Hall, and everybody expected
you were that guy.
Yeah, and everybody expected to blow them out, like Michigan to dominate, and they didn't.
Always creating conflict.
I know, right? What year was Eric Gordon a freshman? Was that 2007?
If it works for him, it works for him.
Yes.
I have that written down.
That's right.
For Ryan Phillips on Race Thompson.
If it works for him, it works. we gotta make note of this in the future so we can pull these things out.
Eric Gordon.
On my old radio show.
Listen to this.
On my old radio show, I'll just tell you this quick. We used to have a calendar. Like, I guarantee this will happen, blah, 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 blah. And my producer would put it on a calendar, like, make sure to check.
Okay, that should be something new that we do this year. Will you help us quarterback that this year?
Yeah,
we need to, because we all make crazy proclamations. We need to
get a whiteboard and put them all up.
We need to keep track of these.
The 24/7 composite from 2007. Eric Gordon, number 1. OJ Mayo, number 2. Kevin Love, number 3. Michael Beasley, number 4. Derrick Rose, number 5. Kyle Singler, number 6. Dante Green, who went to Syracuse, is number 7. Nick Calathis, Austin Freeman, Patrick Patterson, J.J. Hickson, Costa Kufos, DeAndre Jordan. James Harden was 14th.
Wow.
15th was Blake Griffin. 17th, Jared Bayless. Johnny Flynn was 18.
That's a hell of a class. Stellar class.
Unbelievable. Etuan Moore was 27th. Chandler Parsons was 30th. DeJuan Blair, 32nd. Yeah, I mean, this is legit great class, yeah.
Stacked.
Yeah, no kidding. Jawan Johnson, Purdue guy. I remember him.
That was Purdue's really good recruiting class.
Yeah. Evan Turner was 48th.
Wow.
Oh, remember John Diebler? I remember that guy. He was in there too. That's a great recruiting class.
Yeah, it is.
Jeff Teague out of Pike, 52nd.
Very nice. Thank you, everybody, for watching this week.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
It's always great to have you here. Hopefully the off-air stuff is entertaining.
Later, everybody.
All right, guys. See ya.